What's stopping you?
Nothing but the excuses you keep protecting.
I keep waiting for the perfect moment. Then you'll spend your whole life watching others win.
What if I fail?
You'll fail only if you refuse to move.
I'm exhausted!
Good! That's where champions are born!
What if the exact reason you aren't getting what you want in life isn't because you lack some foolproof strategy, but because on a deeply subconscious level, you secretly believe you just aren't worth the hardest?
Wow. Yeah. That is
right. Like, what if your obsessive search for the perfect how-to guide is actually just the ultimate form of self-sabotage?
I mean, it's a deeply uncomfortable question to just sit with. We love the idea of a missing strategy.
Absolutely.
Because a strategy is external. It's like a map. If you don't have the map, well, it's not your fault, you're lost.
Exactly. You get to blame the map.
Right. But if the map is useless because you are fundamentally terrified of the destination, that requires a completely different level of internal auditing.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because today we are tearing apart a masterclass on human motivation, and it is going to challenge pretty much every excuse you've ever made for why you're stuck.
It really is.
We're looking at this wildly popular, just incredibly dense compilation of motivational material. It's a Motiversity compilation titled How to Get What You Want in Life.
And it is dense.
So dense. And if you're listening to this right now, maybe you're on your commute or, staring at a ceiling fan at 2 a.m., you have probably gone down one of these late night rabbit holes on YouTube or whatever.
Oh, we all have.
Right. The soaring string music, the passionate shouting, the whole adrenaline rush. And it feels amazing in the moment.
Right. Because it triggers this massive dopamine release in your brain. You feel this synthetic sense of accomplishment just by consuming the content.
Exactly. But then, an hour passes, the music stops, and you're just sitting in your kitchen feeling completely paralyzed.
Yeah, nothing has actually changed.
Nothing. It's like taking a blast from a fire hose of inspiration, but you have absolutely no bucket to catch the water. You have no idea how to apply it to your messy, complicated, thoroughly uncinematic Tuesday morning.
Right.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to deconstruct this giant wall of wisdom. We are stripping away the swelling background music and the rhetorical flourishes to extract the raw, actionable, psychological framework beneath it all.
And, what's fascinating here is that when you actually isolate the core arguments within these sources, they aren't about goal setting in that superficial way.
Like the whole manifest a sports car thing.
Exactly. None of that.
Yeah.
If you look at the underlying mechanics, these speakers are talking about fundamentally rewiring your central nervous system.
Which sounds intense.
It is. They are offering a literal blueprint for how you process failure, how you tolerate the physical discomfort of uncertainty, and how you manage the sheer terrifying reality that your time is running out.
Yeah.
It's not about getting what you want. It's about engineering a psyche capable of surviving the brutal process of acquiring it.
Well, let's start right at the genesis of any ambition, right? The goal itself. The material posits that the formula for getting what you want starts with one staggering, almost insultingly simple step.
Just ask it.
Just ask. And initially my reaction was, come on, that's a bumper sticker. That's not a life philosophy.
It triggers our intellectual vanity, doesn't it? We want the solution to be as complex as the anxiety we feel about our problems.
Yeah.
But when they talk about asking, they aren't talking about like tossing a coin into a wishing well.
Right.
They are describing a profound psychological clarity. The concept is that you cannot just be a hard worker. You have to be a good asker.
Right. And what does a good asker actually look like in practice? It means demanding specificity from yourself. You can't just mumble to your boss or your partner or the universe that you want things to be, better.
Better is useless.
It's a subjective, useless metric. You have to define the exact parameters. How wide? How high? What specific size? What exact color?
Yeah.
By doing this, you are forcing your reticular activating system, the filter in your brain that decides what information to notice, to start scanning your environment for those specific parameters.
Precisely. You're giving your brain a literal search query. But the real friction comes from the second part of this equation. The source material says you must ask intelligently, making plans like an adult, but, and this is the hard part, you have to believe in the outcome like a child.
Which is incredibly difficult because as adults, we are basically professionally trained skeptics.
We are.
Think about the last time you, the listener, had a wildly ambitious idea. I bet you talked yourself out of the ass before the words even left your mouth. We preemptively reject ourselves so the world doesn't have to do it for us.
We do. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And to break that habit, the material introduces a really compelling metaphor about receiving. It compares success and abundance to the ocean.
Oh, I love this part.
It's great. Yeah. The fundamental premise is that receiving isn't the problem. It is an automatic, natural law. Success isn't this finite pie sitting behind a counter where you have to worry that the guy ahead of you is going to take the last slice.
Right. It's a vast, limitless ocean.
Exactly. The tragedy is that most people walk up to the ocean of success holding a teaspoon.
The teaspoon, while everyone else is backing up a dump truck.
Yeah. But why do we bring a teaspoon? It's not because we don't want a bucket of water.
No.
It's because carrying a bucket requires strength. It requires defending the bucket.
Yeah.
And it requires believing you are worthy of that much water.
That's heavy.
To upgrade from a teaspoon to a bucket, you have to fundamentally challenge your core motivation for setting the goal in the first place.
Which brings us to this pivotal paradigm shift introduced by a mentor figure in the text named Mr. Shea.
Yes, Mr. Shea.
He gives this advice that it floored me. He says, set a goal to become a millionaire. But then he completely subverts the reason why. He says, do it for what it will make of you to achieve it.
It's brilliant.
It really is, because it completely untethers your self-worth from the actual material object.
It reorients the entire dopamine reward system of your brain. The ultimate value in life isn't what you acquire. It is who you become in the crucible of acquisition. The material argues that true, sustainable psychological happiness is intrinsically tied to the process of becoming, not the static, fleeting state of getting. The fastest way to attract what you want is to actually deserve it.
To build so much undeniable competence that it becomes literally unreasonable for you to fail.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to jump in and push back on this a little bit because philosophically, I love it. But practically, it sounds a bit like, I don't know, linguistic gymnastics to make us feel better about the grind. Is it really that easy to just flip a switch in your brain and say, I don't care about the money, I just care about my personal evolution?
Oh no, it is the furthest thing from easy. It requires the death of your current ego, because our entire culture is wired for transactional outcomes. You go to a job interview and your internal monologue is, what am I getting paid here? What are my benefits?
Naturally.
But this philosophy demands you walk into that room and ask, who will this environment force me to become? It is a radical cognitive reframing.
It makes me think of the psychology behind extreme endurance sports.
Oh, good example.
Like, take someone who signs up for one of those brutal 100-mile ultramarathons in Death Valley. You do not put your body through months of agonizing training, destroying your knees, waking up at 4 a.m. in the freezing rain, running until your toenails fall off. Just for the $5 piece of metal they drape around your neck at the finish line?
No, of course not.
The metal itself is utterly worthless. You do it to become the exact type of person whose physiology and psychology are capable of running 100 miles. The goal isn't the object. The goal is the forced evolution of the self.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Right.
The metal is literally just the physical receipt for the internal transformation.
Right.
And how do you force that evolution? The material provides a blunt, unavoidable answer. Massive action.
Not just action, massive action.
Massive action. It warns specifically against the trap of over-intellectualizing your goals. It says, don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action.
Right.
Because what do smart people do when they are afraid? They study. They research. They convince themselves that they need to read just one more book, take one more online course, listen to one more deep dive before they are quote-unquote ready.
Oh man, I feel so attacked right now. It's sophisticated procrastination.
It really is.
We use information gathering as a shield against the vulnerability of actually trying.
Exactly. The material literally states that it's okay to be dumb and broke, but to be smart and broke is pitiful.
Pitiful, that's a strong word.
It is, because it means you've spent your time acquiring 3,000 pieces of trivia without the courage to implement a single one. You have to pick up one good idea and take massive, heavy action on it tomorrow.
But here's where it gets really interesting and where we have to dig into the actual mechanics of human behavior. Because if taking massive action is the cure-all, if we all logically know that knocking on 1,000 doors will yield a result, why do we freeze?
Yes.
Why do you, listening to this, sit on the couch paralyzed, knowing exactly what you need to do, but feeling physically incapable of doing it?
this is the crux of the entire deep dive.
Yeah.
This transitions us right into the architecture of our internal blockers. The source material outlines how almost every human being attempts to create a breakthrough in the exact reverse order of how human psychology actually functions.
Right. Because when we want a breakthrough, where do we start? We start by looking for the strategy.
The how-to.
The how-to, which by the way makes complete logical sense. If I want to build a house, I need the blueprints. If I want to fix my car, I need the manual.
It makes logical sense in a vacuum, sure,
Right.
but it completely ignores human neurobiology.
And how so?
When you focus intensely on the how of something you have never accomplished before, what does your brain immediately encounter? A massive void of data. You don't know how to do it.
Right.
That cognitive void registers in your nervous system as uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds hesitancy.
And hesitancy is the silent killer.
It kills momentum, it kills performance, and it ultimately kills the ambition entirely. The material brilliantly calls this the tyranny of how.
The tyranny of how. It is so evocative because you become a hostage to the steps you don't yet understand. So starting with strategy throws you into uncertainty, which then creates a toxic story.
Exactly.
You hit the first roadblock, you feel that hesitancy, and your brain immediately starts spinning a narrative to protect your ego. I've tried everything, you tell yourself. The material notes how people love to claim they've tried thousands of things, but when you actually press them, they admit they've just tried like 2 variations of the exact same failed strategy.
And once that bad story I'm a failure, this is impossible, the market is rigged. Once that takes root, it locks you into a terrible physical and emotional state.
Right, your posture drops.
Your posture drops, your breathing gets shallow, cortisol floods your system, you feel defeated, fearful, and entirely passive.
So we have the sequence. Strategy leads to a bad story, which locks us in a paralyzed state. If that's the roadmap to failure, what is the actual mechanism for a breakthrough?
Yeah, you have to invert the entire sequence. The correct psychological order of operations is state, then story, then strategy.
It's like a combination dial on a massive bank vault.
Okay, I like that.
If you have the exact right numbers, that's your brilliant strategy, your flawless business plan, but you input those numbers in the wrong order, the vault simply does not open.
Yep.
You can scream at the door, you can show everyone your perfect blueprints, but if your internal state is a mess, the heavy steel door stays locked. You absolutely must start with your state.
Yes, the state is the biological foundation. You have to master your nervous system before you try to master your environment. You need a state of absolute internal certainty.
Like what?
Think about sports psychology. The material uses the example of a basketball player stepping up to the free throw line. Even as a spectator, you can often predict if they are going to miss simply by reading their somatic markers.
Their body language.
Right. Their gaze, the tension in their shoulders, they lack certainty in their nervous system.
Right.
But if you can generate that peak physiological state first, if you can force your body into a posture of absolute resolve, it automatically changes your cognitive story.
Wait, I need to push back here.
Go ahead.
If I'm sitting in my car, I've just been fired, my bank account is overdrawn, and I'm terrified trying to hype myself up into a peak state of absolute certainty without any strategy to fix my life just feels like toxic positivity. It feels like delusion. How is changing my state not just lying to myself?
That is a crucial distinction, and I'm glad you brought it up. It is not about pasting a fake smile on your face and repeating empty affirmations.
Okay.
It's about physiological regulation. When you are panicked, your amygdala is hijacking your brain, severely limiting your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for creative problem solving.
So you literally can't think straight.
You literally can't. By changing your state through deep breath work, changing your physical environment, engaging in intense physical movement, you are literally down-regulating the panic response. You aren't lying to yourself. You are rebooting your hardware so your software can actually run.
Ah, okay. So by physically shifting out of panic, your story naturally shifts from I am doomed and out of options to this is a disaster, but I am biologically capable of figuring it out.
Exactly. And once your story is, I will find a way, the strategy becomes inevitable. If the perfect strategy doesn't exist, a brain in that state of certainty will invent one.
Wow.
The strategy is the easiest part once the psychological friction is removed.
So how do we systematically manufacture that state of internal certainty, especially when the external world feels completely chaotic? The source material dives into the concept of the 6 human needs to explain this, and I think we need to spend some real time here because this explains so much of our bizarre behavior.
It absolutely does. The argument is that to create lasting behavioral change, you have to understand the invisible engine driving your current behavior.
Right.
Every single thing you do is an attempt to meet one or more of these 6 needs. Let's break them down. The foundational is certainty. We all require a baseline level of security, comfort, and the assurance that we can avoid pain.
But the paradox is, if you achieve total external certainty, if you knew exactly what was going to happen every minute of every day, what every person was going to say before they said it, you would be utterly miserable.
You would be bored to tears, which introduces the necessary tension of the second need, uncertainty or variety. Humans require surprise, challenge, and novelty to feel alive. We want the roller coaster, even though it terrifies us.
And we meet this need for variety in so many ways today. Healthy ways, like traveling or learning a language, but also incredibly tough.
Oh, definitely.
Like doom scrolling on social media is just a low-grade 5e drip of variety. Picking fights with your partner because the relationship feels too stable is a dysfunctional way of injecting uncertainty into your life.
Spot on. Moving to the third need, we have significance. The deep-seated desire to feel unique, special, and needed. People will go to extraordinary lengths to secure significance.
The material points out that you can get significance by building a billion-dollar company, or you can get it by tearing down someone else's company in a comment section.
Yes.
You can get it by being the most generous person in the room, or by having the most extreme political views, or even just by covering your face in tattoos. The brain doesn't care how you get the significance, it just demands the chemical payoff.
Exactly. And the fourth need is connection and love. Now, the material makes a profoundly melancholic observation here.
Yeah, this part was rough.
It says most human beings eventually settle for mere connection because the vulnerability required for real love is too terrifying, especially if they've been hurt before.
This part hit hard. People connect through shared interests, sure, but they also connect through shared misery. The text explicitly mentions how people connect through their problems.
The comparing problems phenomenon.
Yes. You sit down with a friend and say, I'm exhausted, I only slept 4 hours. And they immediately say, you think you're tired, I've been running on 2 hours of sleep all week and my dog is sick. It becomes a race to the bottom.
And psychologically, why do they do that?
Yeah.
Because by having the worst problem, they are simultaneously meeting the need for connection bonding over the difficulty of life and the need for significance, proving their suffering is the most extreme. It is a highly toxic, extremely efficient way to meet multiple needs. The rule of thumb in behavioral psychology is that if a single action or habit meets at least 3 of your core needs, you will form a powerful addiction to it, regardless of whether that habit is destroying your life.
That is terrifying. We can become addicted to our own suffering because it pays the bills of our emotional needs. What about the final 2 needs?
The first 4 are fundamental needs of the personality. The final 2 are the spiritual needs, the needs of the soul, if you will. Number 5 is growth. In nature, anything that isn't growing is actively dying. There is no plateau.
And number 6 is contribution. The need to step outside of your own ego and give to something larger than yourself.
Because we only grow so that we have increased capacity to give. That is the ultimate mechanism for fulfillment.
Now, tying this all back to the concept of state and internal certainty, the material makes a surgical strike against our modern obsession with external security.
Yes, it does.
People are constantly panicking, saying, AI is going to take my job, the economy is collapsing, interest rates are out of control, how can I possibly have any certainty in my life?
And the response from the speaker is brilliantly ruthless.
Right.
There was never any external certainty. It is a complete illusion.
Completely.
We have simply hypnotized ourselves into believing we were safe because we received a direct deposit every 2 weeks or because we had a predictable morning commute. But you can walk outside tomorrow and get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
The company you've given 20 years of loyalty to can get acquired and liquidate your department in an afternoon.
It's what the material calls rented certainty. If you link your psychological need for certainty to an employer, a politician, the stock market, or even another human being behaving exactly the way you want them to, you are signing up for a life of perpetual terror.
Yes.
Because you are outsourcing your emotional regulation to entities you absolutely cannot control.
True freedom only occurs when you sever that link and cultivate internal certainty. It is the cultivation of an identity that firmly states, I do not know what the market will do tomorrow. I do not know what tragedies will strike. But I am fundamentally the type of person who will adapt, who will learn, and who will find a way.
Okay, that shift from needing external validation to building internal identity is massive. It sounds bulletproof, but I want to play devil's advocate for the listener right now who is deep in the trenches.
Please do.
We've established that you need this internal certainty, this powerful state, to break the tyranny of how and take massive action. But what if the person listening to this has a life that has completely objectively fallen apart. I mean, their marriage is over, their health is failing, their house is a disaster. The massive action required to fix all of that seems mathematically impossible.
This is where the material pivots from high-octane motivation to deep clinical shadow work. It brings us face to face with what it identifies as the primary universal limiting belief. Underneath the procrastination, underneath the fear of failure, is a single sentence: I am not enough.
I am not enough. It's the phantom in the basement of everyone's psyche.
It is the deepest unconscious terror. Because from an evolutionary standpoint, if I'm not enough, I will be rejected by the tribe. And if I am rejected by the tribe, I won't be loved and I will die.
Right.
So how do we cope with this terror? We compartmentalize, we push it into the dark. We hyper-focus on the one or two things we are already good at. Maybe we become workaholics to prove our worth, and we completely ignore the areas where we feel painfully insufficient. We ignore our failing physical health or the emotional distance in our relationship until the rot is so deep that the structure collapses.
The material visualizes this beautifully. It talks about the gap between who you currently are and the ideal person you know you should be. And when you let things degrade for so long, that gap becomes unbearable to look at. When the discrepancy is that huge, you have essentially conjured a psychological dragon that is far too massive for you to fight. So you freeze.
It's the perfect imagery. You've fed this monster of insufficiency until it occupies your entire psychological landscape. So what is the prescription? You cannot just charge at a dragon that big, it will incinerate you. You have to shrink the dragon.
Shrink the dragon. It reminds me of trying to run a massive, complex video game on an old, outdated computer.
Oh, that's a great way to think about it.
If you set the graphics to the maximum settings, the computer gets completely overwhelmed by the demands, the frame rate drops to 0, and the system crashes. The hardware literally cannot process the data. If you want to play the game, you have to go into the settings and turn the resolution all the way down to the lowest possible quality. You make the rendering demands so incredibly small that your psychological hardware can actually process it without freezing.
That is a phenomenal exact parallel. You have to lower the resolution of the task. The golden rule for resurrecting yourself from rock bottom is to make the task small enough that you will actually do it.
But this is where our ego fights back so hard, because doing something tiny feels pathetic.
And that is why the material offers a profound, agonizing redefinition of a word we throw around casually: humility.
Right.
The material defines true humility not as being polite or self-effacing, but as starting exactly where you are, to your own shame.
To your own shame. That phrase feels like a physical blow.
It is supposed to. Because if your life is in ruins, you have to endure the cognitive dissonance of admitting that you are the architect of those ruins. You have to face your total insufficiency. The material gives a very visceral example.
Hoarder room, right.
Yes. Imagine someone whose bedroom has been a hoarding disaster for 20 years. Trash, clothes, rot everywhere. If you tell that person, just go clean your room, you are asking them to fight the full-size dragon. The anxiety will crush them.
So how do you shrink that specific dragon?
You lower the resolution. Maybe the first step isn't cleaning the room. Maybe the first step is walking into the room, opening one single drawer, looking at the chaotic mess inside that drawer for 60 seconds, and just thinking about how you might conceptually organize it. And then you close the drawer, and you are done for the day. That is the task.
Okay, I hear that, but honestly, if I tell my partner, hey, huge victory today, I successfully looked inside my sock drawer for a minute, they are going to think I am losing my grip on reality. It is deeply embarrassing to celebrate a micro win like that.
Yes, it is incredibly embarrassing. That is the literal definition of doing it to your own shame. The ego wants to announce a grand, sweeping transformation. It wants to say, I am a new person today.
Like we want the montage sequence.
Exactly. But true humility is dropping to your knees and admitting, my capacity is so severely damaged right now that looking at a drawer is the absolute upper limit of my competence. You have to face the horrifying internal dialogue that whispers, my God, is this really all I can handle? Am I this broken?
But the alternative to facing that shame is so much worse.
It is the abyss. The material issues a stark mathematical warning here. We know that success accrues exponentially compound interest, right?
Yeah.
But what we forget is that defeat also accrues exponentially. The descent into chaos accelerates. Going downhill gets faster and faster. You have to arrest the momentum. You have to find the single microscopic step that you can take, and more importantly, that you will take, to generate a tiny pulse of forward momentum.
To help us navigate this ego death, the material introduces a really helpful analogy of dealing with a 3-year-old child.
Which is brilliant because it perfectly models the balance of radical self-compassion and necessary necessary discipline.
Right. Think about how you would parent a toddler. If you want to build their confidence, you don't assign them a task they mastered a year ago, like stacking 2 blocks. They will just get bored and throw the blocks at you.
Yeah, exactly.
But conversely, you don't ask them to do long division. It's mathematically impossible for their current brain development, and failing repeatedly will just crush their spirit and teach them helplessness.
Psychologists call this finding the zone of proximal development. You have to assign a task that stretches them just slightly beyond their current established limits, but still carries a highly probable chance of success if they exert effort.
And why do you do that? Because you want to build their confidence based on actual reality. The material specifically warns against building confidence without competence, because that just creates a narcissist.
Yes, very true.
You want the child to exert effort, watch themselves succeed, and have the realization, oh, I have a mechanism inside me that can overcome friction.
And the revelation is that you must parent yourself exactly the same way. You are the toddler. You have to stretch yourself incrementally. And this exposes the toxicity of how we usually measure our progress. The material establishes a rigid law regarding comparison. You are the only control group appropriate for yourself.
Which destroys the entire architecture of social media.
It completely invalidates it. You cannot compare your chaotic Tuesday to someone else's curated highlight reel. You don't know their genetic predispositions, the secret traumas they're carrying, the hidden financial advantages they possess, or the luck they've stumbled into.
Right.
Comparing your variable heavy life to their variable heavy life is scientifically invalid. The only scientifically valid comparison is longitudinal. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Can you orchestrate your day to be fractionally less chaotic than yesterday?
Okay, so we've established the ground game. We are shrinking the dragon. We are swallowing our pride to take shameful micro steps, and we are comparing ourselves only to our past selves. This gets us out of paralysis.
Yes.
But let's be real. Eventually, as we climb out of the hole, we are going to get hit by a Mack truck of unavoidable tragedy. We are going to face massive stress. How do we endure the brutal, unfair hits of life without retreating back into the abyss and becoming cynical?
This is where we enter the crucible of character. The material is very explicit that if you try to hide from the friction of life, if you retreat from your potential to stay safe, you don't just stay stagnant, you sour.
You spoil.
You become bitter, resentful, and capable of deeply dark behaviors. When facing stress, the text posits a ruthless binary. You either use stress or stress uses you.
It's the old Winston Churchill quote. If you're going through hell, keep going. Why would you stop and set up camp in hell?
Precisely. Pushing through the hell of maximal stress serves 3 very specific psychological functions.
Right.
First, it introduces you to yourself. It reveals your actual unvarnished baseline of strength. You cannot theorize your resilience. You can only discover it when you're crushed.
And the second.
Second, it acts as a brutal social audit. It exposes who your real friends are. When the facade drops and you have nothing to offer, the superficial network evaporates instantly and you are left with the rare few who actually love you.
And the third.
It acts as a psychological vaccination. Surviving a massive stressor forces your nervous system to adapt, granting you a higher threshold of immunity to future anxieties.
To really cement this concept of anti-fragility, the material takes a sharp turn into a deeply personal, visceral case study of a specific speaker's childhood. It's a fascinating look at the exact environmental cocktail that forges this kind of relentless character.
It is a masterclass in the tension of opposing values.
Yeah.
Let's analyze this environment. The very first thing the speaker notes is that in his household, sleep was treated practically as a mortal sin.
A sin. He tells this wild story about waking up on a Saturday morning, seeing his father asleep in a chair, and being so deeply shocked that his immediate thought was, my dad must be dying.
Yeah, it's intense.
Which adds a heartbreaking layer to the story because his father actually did pass away a few months later. But it forever hardwired the connection in his young brain that sleeping during the day equals sickness.
And alongside this extreme work ethic, there was an absolute demand for independence. Screen time was ruthlessly limited. The overarching mandate of his childhood was, get outside, go hustle, figure out the world on your own, and do not come back until the streetlights come on.
But if you just describe those rules, no sleeping, get out of the house, no TV, it sounds like a cold, abusive environment. But the material emphasizes that the strictness was wrapped in an incredibly intense, almost suffocating physical affection.
That is the critical counterbalance. The love wasn't assumed, it was aggressively demonstrated. Deep, passionate hugs. You never ended a day without a physical embrace and an explicit, I love you.
Yet the discipline for crossing a line was equally physical and immediate. They didn't do grounding.
No, because grounding a child means confiscating their time. And in this household's philosophy, time was the most sacred, irreplaceable asset a human being possesses. To lock a kid in a room for a week was viewed as a crime against their potential. So the discipline was old school corporal punishment. Take your licks, get the punishment over with in 60 seconds, wipe your tears, and get back to the business of living.
Wow.
Now, we can debate modern parenting paradigms all day, but the psychological output of this specific environment was a child who never ever doubted he was deeply loved, but who also knew with absolute certainty that his actions had immediate, unavoidable consequences.
The story that really stuck with me was how this mother taught emotional boundary setting. The speaker recalls being a teenager, absolutely devastated over a breakup. His heart was shattered, and his mother was initially very sensitive. She held him, she let him cry, she let him mourn for exactly 24 hours.
Give me the day, no more than that.
Exactly. The very next morning, the mourning period was officially terminated. She blasted AC/DC through the house, marched into his room, physically pulled him out of bed, and yelled, "Her loss! Get up! You are worth more than this!"
It is a profound lesson in emotional regulation. She did not teach him to suppress the emotion. She allowed the grief to be fully felt, but she vehemently refused to let him wallow in it until the grief calcified into his identity. She enforced a strict expiration date on despair.
So what does this all mean? How do we apply this? Because most of us weren't raised by a hyper-intense Texas tornado of a mother. What is the macro takeaway for the listener?
The takeaway forces us to challenge our fundamental assumption about what the human animal is actually built for. The material asks this explicitly. If you look at modern society, we have designed a world based on the premise that humans are built for safety, for temperature-controlled comfort, for frictionless consumption, and for cheap dopamine like pornography and social media validation.
We want the path of least resistance. We want the life hack.
But the speaker argues with immense passion that our neurology is not built for the couch. We are built for maximal challenge. The human spirit is like a flint. It requires harsh friction to ignite. If you consistently choose the frictionless path, the material even uses the over-reliance on artificial intelligence to bypass the struggle of learning. As a modern example, you are actively tampering with the incentives of your own psychological development. You are bypassing the very struggle required to forge competence.
It perfectly aligns with the central paradox of how this speaker was raised. His mother would constantly pump him up, calling him Little Mr. Texas, right?
Right.
She gave him this mandate: don't ever walk into a room like you want to buy the place. You walk in like you already own it. It was a deliberate, massive injection of ego and self-belief.
Yes, she armed him with the audacity to attempt great things. But what happened the moment he actually succeeded and tried to parade around the kitchen bragging about it?
She instantly crushed him. She would humble him immediately, reminding him that he wasn't better than anyone else.
And there is the genius of it. It created a beautifully engineered psychological equilibrium, a massive ego, the unshakable internal certainty that you deserve a seat at any table in the world, perfectly counterweighted by massive humility, the deep understanding that you are never above the gritty work, and you're never exempt from treating others with respect.
It's beautiful.
It teaches you to shoot for absolute perfection, knowing full well that reality will always deliver a result slightly under it, but remaining fiercely grateful for the pursuit, because the friction of the pursuit is what built your character.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time zoomed in on the micro. We've looked at the daily internal state, the mechanics of the nervous system, and the childhood roots of resilience. To close this out, I want to pull the camera all the way back to the absolute macro view. The source material finishes by providing a sweeping, timeless framework for navigating the entirety of a human life, utilizing the metaphor of the four seasons.
It's an ancient, stoic way to view the inevitability of change, and it maps perfectly onto our psychological development. The cycle begins with winter. The material describes winters of all varieties. There are economic winters, like a massive recession or losing your business. There are social winters, and there are deep personal winters, those dark nights of the soul when your heart is shattered, you are financially ruined, and every prayer you utter seems to bounce off the ceiling.
The times when the nights feel unusually long and the cold is biting.
Exactly. And the most vital lesson of winter is acceptance. You cannot simply tear January off the calendar because you are tired of the snow. You cannot life hack your way out of a true season of suffering.
The winter itself won't change.
No, the winter itself will not change, but you can. The mandate of winter is to use the isolation to get stronger, to get wiser, and to build the internal certainty we discussed earlier.
Which is the only way you survive until spring. And spring always follows winter. Spring represents opportunity. It's It's the moment the market turns, or you meet someone new, or you finally get that breakthrough idea. But the material issues a very sharp, almost threatening warning about spring. Just because the sun is shining doesn't mean you are guaranteed a harvest.
Because spring requires exhaustion. The operative phrase is take advantage. You must furiously take advantage of the spring because the window of neuroplasticity, the window of opportunity, is incredibly brief. Life only offers you a handful of true springs.
Yeah.
The material lays out a brutal binary. You must get exceptionally good at one of two things. You either plant furiously in the spring, or you will be forced to beg in the fall.
Plant or beg, there is no middle ground. And assuming you do the work and plant your seeds, you transition into summer.
Summer is the season of conflict. It is the season of protection. The material warns that it is dangerously naive to think that just because you planted good seeds, the world will leave you alone.
Oh, absolutely not.
The moment you build something valuable, a great marriage, a thriving business, a healthy mind for it, the bugs, the noxious weeds, and the predators will attempt to consume it. All values must be actively and aggressively defended.
You can't just plant the garden and go on vacation. You have to sweat in the summer sun pulling weeds. Which finally brings us to the fall, the harvest.
The season of ultimate truth. The lesson of the harvest has nothing to do with how much grain you pull out of the ground. It is entirely about your posture toward the result. You must learn to reap without complaint if your harvest is pitiful, and without apology if your harvest is magnificent.
You have to take full radical responsibility.
Yes, the material actually defines this as the apex of human development. The exact moment you transition psychologically from a child into a fully actualized adult is the day you accept 100% responsibility for your harvest, regardless of the weather.
Because the weather is always going to be chaotic, right? The text brings up Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it absolutely will go wrong.
It strips away our victimhood. Disappointments, betrayals, and bad luck are not special. Targeted punishments reserved just for you. They are the universal baseline of the human condition. Everyone gets them.
Everyone.
The only variable that separates a tragic life from a triumphant one is what you choose to do about those happenings the morning after they occur.
Which leads to a quote in this final section that genuinely gave me chills. It's talking about people who are standing at a crossroads. They know they have to make a painful decision. They know they have to endure the friction of winter to get to a better spring, and out of fear, they choose to do nothing. They just wait.
And the quote is, "The heaviest things in life aren't iron and gold, but unmade decisions."
Unmade decision.
It completely shatters the comforting illusion that indecision is a neutral waiting room. There is no neutral. Because while you are refusing to decide, your cells are dividing, you are aging, the clock is running out.
Yeah.
You pay for your indecision with the most finite currency in the universe: your time, your youth, and your unlived potential. Indecision is not a delay. It is a definitive decision to suffer the pain of regret rather than the pain of discipline.
So let's pull all of these massive threads together for the listener. We started by dismantling the entire purpose of a goal, realizing that it's never about the money or the medal. It is exclusively about the forced evolution of your character. We looked at how to hack that evolution by fixing our biological state first, rewriting our internal story, and letting the strategy follow.
We explored the terrifying necessity of shrinking the dragon, confronting our deep-seated feelings of insufficiency, swallowing our ego, and committing to the shameful, microscopic steps required to arrest our exponential descent into chaos.
We embraced the radical idea that we are not built for a life of comfort and safety, but for maximal challenge, that we need the brutal friction of reality to forge a character capable of holding both immense ego and profound humility. And finally, we mapped out the inescapable seasons of life, enduring the bitter cold of winter, planting with desperate urgency in the spring, violently defending our values in the summer, and claiming radical, unapologetic responsibility for our harvest.
So now, the spotlight turns entirely to you, listening to this. Where exactly are you standing on this map? Are you standing at the edge of the limitless ocean of success, but you are stubbornly, cynically clutching a teaspoon because you are too afraid to ask for a bucket?
Or maybe you're trapped in a personal winter, but you're exhausting yourself trying to pretend it's spring, faking a smile instead of doing the deep, quiet work of getting stronger in the dark.
Or maybe you are in the middle of a spring right now. You have the energy, you have the opportunity, but you are letting the days slip by because you are paralyzed by the tyranny of how, refusing to plant a single seed.
We've spent this entire deep dive talking about shrinking the dragon to a manageable size and taking aggressive advantage of the fleeting opportunities life hands us. But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over when you take your headphones off.
Okay, what is it?
Building on everything we've just unpacked, what if the dragon you are most terrified to face right now? What if the heavy, suffocating weight that is keeping you paralyzed is simply an unmade decision?
The illusion of neutral.
Exactly. What if the decision you are refusing to make is the exact thing holding the springtime of your life hostage? What if the winter you are suffering through right now is entirely self-imposed? You don't need another deep dive. Starting tomorrow, you have the profound, terrifying choice to change your state, shrink the dragon, and make the decisions. Choice time. Take some massive action.